Good evening and welcome. Tonight we will be continuing our read through of this National Geographic magazine called Atlas of the Ancient World. If you've seen this series before, you know my whole gimmick about it is that I haven't read any of these pages beforehand. I've only read the titles so that I know what I'm talking about. So you see me like much more uncut, reactions to reading things for the first time, and any mistakes I make get left in. So you kind of get to see what the real process is like when I'm filming, I suppose. But as you can see by the title, we're going to read about the Roman Empire tonight. So let me find, that's Greece, we already did that one. We're going to read about Rome. We did Alexander. That map is, I had my brother look at this too, and he was like, oh, I'm confused too. So at least it wasn't just me. I don't know. But we're going to start off, before we get to the Roman Empire, with the Roman Republic. And of course, we're going to brush all the maps with my little paintbrush here. Let's see what this says. Before Rome was Roman, the land around the Tiber River was occupied by a variety of ethnic groups and dominated by the artistic Etruscans. By 509 BCE, the Romans had risen up and driven out their overlords. They replaced the Etruscan monarchy with a republic, which was led by two consuls elected by an assembly of patricians. Rome became the leader in a loose confederation of Latin cities in central Italy and built its power through military might. So let's see, all of these bold red names here are pre-Roman cultures. And there's a whole bunch of them. But let's see, over here there's Rome, of course. You can see the Roman road there between Rome and I guess the land of, I guess that's Aemilia. That's where it goes to at this time. But let's see some of the people groups. We have, of course, the Gauls, the Ligurians, the Celts, past the Po River here, the Venetians, the Umbrians, the Etruscans. Over here's the Corsicans and Sardinians, the Picenians, Vestini, the Sabines or Sabines, I'm not sure, the Faliscans, the Marsians, the Samnites, the Latins, the Samnites. I'm sorry, I'm listening to myself. Do you guys watch the dog show every Thanksgiving? This is a very American thing. After the Macy's parade, they have a dog show, and they always show the lineup of each dog class, and someone says the terrier, the bull terrier, the Jack Russell terrier. That's exactly what this sounds like. Oh my gosh. Anyway, I told you raw reactions. The Samnites, the Daunians, the Pusicians, Campanians, the Greeks are down here. Lucanians, there's more Greeks. Messapians, the Bretians, more Greeks down here. And then in Sicily we have Carthaginians, Sicels, and more Greeks. Very nice. Look at this town, Pietrabondante. Never heard of that town. I doubt that's what it's called today. Let me see. Looking at all the other towns. Yeah, I don't think any of these. I'm sure these towns, of course, are still around. Like Sassoferrato, but they're not called these names. Gubbio? That's a cool name. Let's see what's over here. Cornelia Africana. Women in ancient Rome could not vote or hold office. They lived primarily under the thumb of their fathers or husbands for their lifetimes. However, the Romans revered a virtuous woman, and none exhibited the Roman virtues of wisdom and chastity more visibly than Cornelia Africana. Cornelia was the daughter of a war hero, General Publius Cornelius Scipio Africanus, and the wife of another, Tiberius Gracchus the Elder. After her husband's death, she remained single, even famously refusing the hand of the Egyptian king Ptolemy, which I guess they show here. An intelligent and educated woman who had studied Latin, Greek, and philosophy, she was an advisor to her two surviving sons, Gaius and Tiberius. The two men became passionate advocates of land reform and were murdered in riots 8 years apart. After Cornelia's death, her reputation gradually changed from educated advisor to ideal Roman matron and mother of the Gracchi. I think that's how you pronounce those. So yeah, I guess this is Pharaoh Ptolemy, one of them. They were all named Ptolemy, all the boys of the Ptolemaic era. Literally asking for her hand by the looks of it, and her being like, talk to this hand, because I ain't marrying you. I'm going to stick with my child over here. I'm guessing. It says Italy before Rome. Oh, that's the map over here. Okay, this doesn't have to do with this. It has to do with this. See, if I had read this beforehand, I would have known to read this when I was looking at the map, but I didn't. Italic peoples began to develop distinct identities around 900 BCE. Though the Etruscans, who were not considered Italic because of their language, rose to early prominence, a wealth of other cultures also left their art and inscriptions in their Sibyllic languages across the Italian peninsula. Greek colonies thrived in the south, and Celtic peoples, such as Gauls, came from the north as both warriors and settlers. Now we get to the Roman Empire. In 49 BCE, Julius Caesar gained control of Rome, and the Republic became a dictatorship. Centuries of imperial domination followed, in which Roman forces ruled the Mediterranean and beyond. It says this is a Roman arch in Algeria. At its height in the 2nd century CE, the Roman world stretched from England to the Persian Gulf and the Caspian Sea. Eventually, nomadic warriors from the north overran Roman lands, and in 476 CE, a Germanic kingdom was established in Italy. So it's really pretty, isn't it? There's a whole bunch of Roman ruins in Algeria, so I won't guess which ones these came from or where this arch is at, but I was about to say definitely somewhere in the north, but everything in Algeria is in the north. Everything in the south is desert, so it's definitely not there. It's really pretty still. Alright, so this box talks about this map over here, so let's read that first, and then we'll look at the map. The Roman Empire underwent a cultural sea change when Christianity, is that what it really says? A cultural siege, okay. When Christianity became the faith of the state in the 4th century CE. The Christian church had begun as a clandestine sect of Judaism that met in homes and was deemed illegal by the Roman Empire. Around 45 CE, the freshly converted Saul of Tarsus, now Paul, began a lifetime of missionary work that spread the Christian message throughout the eastern Mediterranean and as far as Rome itself. So this is a map of Paul's journeys, which you read a whole History magazine article on and looked at a big old map there, but this is a much tinier version. So the extent of Christianity by the end of the 1st century CE is in this dark color here. So like this half of the Italian peninsula, this half of the Greek peninsula, and there a lot of Anatolia and down through the Levant and into Egypt a bit. But by the end of the 2nd century CE, it's gone much farther up the Balkans, along the Adriatic coast, up way into Germany, and down through what's now France, all of the Iberian Peninsula, and then all along the northern coast of Africa here, and into the Sinai. and then a bit more into Central Asia, I guess the Middle East today, the rest of Anatolia as well. That's a pretty cool map. Interesting to see how fast it spread. So Paul's missions, the first one, oh gosh, this is going to be another Alexander map, isn't it? What is this? Why is India here? Why is India here? What? Okay. Anyway, India's there. The first voyage is a 1. Okay. Bad news for me. I can't see. I've got the lights dimmed because otherwise they're glaring on the page, and I can't see the difference between these colors. I can see the 1 and 3, 4, and 2, but I'm going to get mixed up. My goodness. Well, the one I can very clearly see is the 4 because it's like brown. The rest are blues and purples. Oh, goodness. It looks like it goes this way. Through Crete right there, by Rhodes, across the Mediterranean, by Malta. Very famous story of St. Paul and Malta. Up by the Sicilian coast and up to Rome. You can see that. Let's see. I'm supposed to be using this. I'm supposed to be brushing it, but it's a little hard to read. My goodness. Okay. Well, he went all over here, mostly. Anyway, let's read about the bread of Vesuvius. Maybe the other maps are easier to read. Erupting catastrophically in 79 CE, Mount Vesuvius was both a destroyer and a preserver. The volcano leveled the Roman cities Pompeii and Herculaneum and their suburbs, but among the remains are informative everyday objects such as earrings, an infant cradle, and loaves of bread now burned black and rock hard. You can see here, probably literally rock now. Interesting. That's really neat. A similar loaf was found in an elegant villa in Herculaneum, which means that it was probably good quality bread. The baker had stamped it with his identification, Celeris Q Grani Veri Service, property of Celer, the slave of Quintus Granius Verus. We don't know if Celer worked in a bakery owned by Quintus Granius Verus, or if he was a household slave who baked the bread in the kitchen of the house of the Stags. One thing we do know, he must have been quick, because the nickname Celer means speedy. That's true. Just read about that in the last history magazine. But yeah, I know they just found a bunch of other paintings and such in Pompeii. I was reading about it, but I don't remember any of the details, so I don't know why I brought it up. But like archaeological excavations are still ongoing in Vesuvius, and they're finding all kinds of wild stuff there. Look at this map. A big old map. Oh, this is fun. Let's see what this is. It says the limits of empire. By the middle of the 2nd century CE, the Roman Empire's centuries of expansion had slowed and then stopped. Rome relied on its network of forts, walls, and natural barriers to separate the empire from barbarians, the term for everyone outside its borders. A mixture of diplomacy, trade, and violence was used to keep the frontiers intact. Eventually, barbarian incursions from the north led to the fall of the Western Empire in the 5th century. Now, what are we looking at here? I guess borders, right? Let's see. Constructed barriers. A wall is shown by a red line. It says of the thousands of miles of frontier, only a fraction were walls, sealing the gaps between natural barriers. So I can see one right here. These are the Germanic limes, right there and up here. And then, of course, there's Hadrian's Wall and the Antonine Wall up here in Great Britain. Any others? a little bit over here. The Transalutannus limes. Walls in Romania, it says, are 60 miles. The Germanic limes are 324 miles. Hadrian's Wall is 73, and the Antonine is 37. Now we also have fortresses. We can see all kinds of fortresses over here. There's a big one right here. There's a bunch over here along the Rhine River, I suppose. There's Legio out there. Today is Leon, it says. Bunch over here. There's Vienna. Started as a Roman fort. I guess Augsburg also started as a fort. What else? Mons. Salzburg. Bechelm, I think. Belgrade started as a fort. It says. Fort area there. Forts up here in Dacia. Let's see where else. Along there, and then down here as well. Hopefully you can see. Yeah. All along the Euphrates River, there's Antiochia, Lebanon. Over here in Judea, that's Jerash, and Alexandria. And then what else do we have? A tower or fort is a dotted line. Troops were concentrated in these frontier structures. Oh, I see. This is about the fortresses, ultimately making the interior more vulnerable. I see. The dotted lines were various forts and towers, not fortresses, but like all the ones they're out here in the Caucasus, in Dacia. Wow, long there. And then all throughout the Levant here, and some along the Nile. What about over here? Oh, we skipped all of North Africa, my goodness. The barriers in Algeria are the Fossum Africae. You can see along there. We even have some walls there. Lambasis is the big fortress there, and then all kinds of forts along the coast. Interesting. All right, so see what's down here. Types of fortifications. It says walls, military outposts, and frontier cities are all part of Rome's efforts to mark and defend its vast empire. So here's the Antonine Wall, which is up here. Make sure you can still see. Oh yeah, you can still see. Up there, marking the border between Rome and Caledonia, right? Built of stone, turf, and wood, in 142 CE, it pushed the northern frontier beyond Hadrian's Wall for some 20 years. Here's Lambasis, which is over here in, looks like, Algeria today. Rome established this military fort in approximately 81 CE. It later served as army headquarters in North Africa. And here's Dura Europos, which is, I'm assuming, the Euphrates, so it's over here. Dura Europos. Oh, over here. Ooh, I missed that one. Way out in the middle of nowhere. My goodness. It says this line over here is a region of Roman occupation at greatest extent between 114 and 117 CE. But this fort, way out here, it says the Romans seized this city on a cliff above the Euphrates River from the Parthians in the 2nd century CE. And that is way out there. My goodness. All right, neat map. I like that one. Aqueducts. Aqueducts left behind. The growth of Rome and other cities around the Roman Empire was made possible by aqueducts, such as Nimes' Pont de Garde below. Very famous one in France. which supplied fresh water to urban areas. These cities would otherwise have been limited to local sources that could not have supported populations of up to 1 million, as in Rome's case, and that were often polluted. Engineers who designed aqueducts used the principle of the arch to distribute the weight of the structure and relied on gravity to carry water from sources at higher elevations to the city, where it flowed through lead pipes to fountains and baths. Public baths were a popular diversion. Many featured both cold and warm pools heated by furnaces circulating water beneath the tiles. Germanic invaders who besieged Rome in the late days of the empire cut off all but one aqueduct. The city's public water supply remained inadequate throughout the Middle Ages. So a quote down here from Sextus Iulius Frontinus, a Roman author. It says, with these grand structures carrying so many waters, who indeed would compare the idol pyramids? Very boasting, but yeah, all these beautiful arches. It really is just like an engineering feat, these big aqueducts. And the fact that many are still standing is really testament to that, isn't it? There we go, beautiful aqueducts carrying water all the way to the Roman cities. Let's read about the plague in Rome. The Black Plague of the 14th century was not the first pandemic to devastate a European population. Plagues regularly swept through the Roman Empire with grim effect, we can see down here. The most famous of the Roman epidemics is now known as the Antonine Plague, after Emperor Marcus Aurelius Antoninus, who was co-ruler when the illness broke out, around 165 CE. It probably began in the Middle East among Roman soldiers and was brought to the city when the troops returned. The noted Greek physician Galen, observed it. Though his descriptions are not precise, the epidemic may have been smallpox. The disease ran through the empire for years, killing up to 1/3 of the population, including most likely Marcus Aurelius's co-ruler Lucius Verus, and a large portion of the army. Upheaval followed in its wake. New religions, an influx of foreigners, and other disruptions helped pave the way for the end of the traditional Roman Empire. You look at this grim painting here. The Antonine Plague people just slouched over. Bodies in the streets, right? And then there's this angel here telling someone, go in there. They're going in, I guess. The door being a symbolic portal, I suppose. Very grim painting. I wonder, does that say who painted this? No, like, what would inspire someone to be like, you know what I want to paint? People dying of the Antonine Plague in Rome. That's my inspiration, I guess. It's very grim, very dark. Nice shadow work there. And of course the angels all lit up, all bright. Your eyes go right there. But very grim. Let's see what's happening down here. The first great pandemic. Plagues continued to strike the areas settled by Rome even after the empire had fallen to German invaders. Like most such epidemics, they probably began in farming communities in Asia or Africa, and then were transported through the Middle East and into Europe along overland and seafaring trade routes. The bubonic plague of Justinian in 541 CE, which spread from the Eastern Roman Empire around the Mediterranean, killed an estimated 25 million people in its first wave. Goodness. In 2 centuries of repeated occurrences, the death toll may have reached 50 million. My goodness. Yeah, nothing to bring down an empire like something as devastating as that. So the first epidemic from 541 to 544 CE is in this dark color. The plague roots are in arrows. So we can see it, I guess, coming up this way in Egypt, following the Nile, and then going up to Istanbul. It was known as Constantinople then. Going up into Ravenna and Rome and Marseille and to the Iberian Peninsula, and then up this land route through the Levant, and then up to this little pocket here by the Caspian. And then the 14 successive epidemics, my goodness, from 557 to 767 CE, also stretched out this way further into the Middle East and Asia. Up here in the Greek peninsula, looks like Crete. My goodness, my mouth kept trying to say Cyprus. I'm like, that's not Cyprus, that's Crete. Crete as well. The southern half of the Italian peninsula and Sicily, and then more up into like western France, and a bit more throughout the Iberian Spain there. Did I mention Carthage? The first epidemic at Carthage. I keep forgetting North Africa, my goodness. There as well. You know what I'm thinking about? Okay. Was there any more? No, this is the last page. Okay, I'll say it then. So when I was reading this, and we got to, where was it? Traveled through the Middle East and into Europe along overland and seafaring trade routes. I was about to be like, what other trade routes would there be? But then I, in that split second, thought better and kept reading. But now I can't stop thinking about it. Because overland and seafaring trade routes are the only trade routes. They didn't have airplanes. Why didn't they just say along trade routes? Why do they? So here's, whenever I read something like that, this is I'm such a nerd. Okay. Back when South Korea was having a huge protest over their president declaring martial law, and like everyone came out to the streets to protest it, a lot of K-pop idols, because I'm a big K-pop person. A lot of K-pop idols also came out to help support like protesters, and one of them was New Jeans. Love New Jeans, but that's a whole other story. Thrown with New Jeans. New Jeans was still around then, and they were handing out hot chocolates and hot cocoa and all of that to protesters in the cold, because it was in December. I want to say 2024, right? So I read this article that said New Jeans hands out hot drinks to fans and non-fans, and I was like, so everyone got hot drinks, because you're either a fan or a non-fan. So whenever I read something like overland and seafaring trade routes, I'm like, to fans and non-fans. That's just, I'm so sorry. I tried to shut myself up, and it worked for a hot minute, and then I couldn't stop thinking about New Jeans handing out drinks to fans and non-fans. The overland and seafaring trade routes. They didn't have any other trade routes. You don't need to specify. It was only land or sea. That's all they got back then. My goodness. Anyway. Now if I had rehearsed this and practiced, I would have restrained myself and not mentioned fans and non-fans, but here we are. I like this map the best. I love these big full maps. These are the best. So I have some bad news, folks. The next time we open this is going to be the last. Let me show you in the table of contents. This last chapter is New World's Young Civilizations, and it covers Oceania, North America, South America, and Africa, which is a lot, but like each section has like 1 or 2 pages, and I don't know, I don't have fun when I'm only reading 1 or 2 pages out of this book. I like when I'm reading at least 4 or more. So we're just going to do this whole chapter in one go and have a whole World Civ reading, I guess. I was going to say talk, but I'm not. I guess I'm talking, but I'm not prepared a lecture. I'm reading it with you guys, so it's pretty great. that is that. Next time we open this, it'll be in 2 weeks. I'll do a history magazine next week. And then we'll open this for the last time. And then I have something new for you guys. I was going to say different, but it's going to be more maps with my brush. I found this really cool book at my library. I peeked at it and went, oh no, I can't read this. I got to read this with everyone. It's that good. So I'm about to just buy it, buy my own copy and read it with you guys. So look forward to that. But that's going to be it for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I do hope that you found this to be relaxing and maybe a bit educational. And I hope that you have a good night. Good night.